I'm not a dramatic person. I don't flip tables, I don't send rage emails, and I don't have a voice built for rooms. Most days, I'm the guy who shows up early, cleans his own mug, and fixes the pivot table that no one else wants to admit they broke. So when people ask how it all started, I tell them it didn't start with a fight. It started with a chair. Mine. One Tuesday morning, I walked into a meeting I'd built the deck for and found my chair missing from the table, and my name missing from the invite. Everyone looked relieved, like the waiter finally cleared a dish they didn't order. I stood there with my laptop open and nowhere to sit and thought, all right, message received. I'm a financial analyst, 28. I'm quiet, meticulous, and exactly the kind of person you want, counting your money if you love sleep. My team ran a quarterly initiative called Pilot North Star, forecasting the profitability of a new client segment. I wrote the model, documented the assumptions, and spent an entire Sunday fixing an error caused by a comma in a CSV. Sarah, my manager, called it great groundwork. Then she pulled the weekly stand-up from my calendar and put Ethan, her favorite, on point for comms. To streamline, she said, like I was a messy hallway. The thing about exclusion is that it doesn't shout. It rearranges a room slightly every week until one day you notice the windows face a different direction. I started getting summaries instead of invites. We decided X. We'll proceed with Y. Please update the model to reflect Z. The updates were always urgent and never specific. At lunch, they'd sit 3 tables away, even when everything else was full. In the shared drive, my folder got moved into a subfolder named Legacy. Legacy is a nice word for storage. I tried being useful from the edges. I documented every assumption, wrote plain English explanations for every tab, added source links next to every figure. When I handed it over, Ethan smiled like a dentist. Professional, polished, nothing personal. Appreciate it, man. He started asking for quick favors. Can you roll the sensitivity case into the base? Can you export just the visuals? Can you remove the notes? They're confusing the narrative. I said yes, then yes. Then I started asking why we were trimming, context from numbers meant to be read, by people who make decisions with them. That's when I noticed the first mismatch. In a recap deck, slide 7 showed a 19.2% margin for the pilot's second month. My model had 14.7%. Not a rounding issue, not close. I checked the spreadsheet linked in the footnote and saw a cut that looked like mine but wasn't. The formula pointed to a sheet named 2 Final Final, rather than the one I'd versioned. Someone had hard-coded a line item that was supposed to be dynamic, then hidden the column. I reopened my own file to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. I wasn't. I called it out softly. I wrote to the thread. Small discrepancy flagged on slide 7, month 2 margin. My base shows 14.7 versus Dex 19.2. Can someone confirm which source we're using? No one responded. I sent Sarah a DM. Do you have 5 minutes to align assumptions? She read it and didn't reply. At 4:30, I walked by the glass huddle room and saw them inside. Sarah at the whiteboard, Ethan nodding, 2 PMs pretending to take notes. They had a joke about something, the kind where eyes flick to the door and back. When people decide you're not in the room, you start hearing the room in ways you didn't before. In the kitchen, someone said, "Keep rolls aligned, please," the way you talk about toddlers and scissors. In the hallway, someone asked, "Is he looped?" And someone else answered, "He doesn't need to be." I kept my head down and my formulas clean. That Thursday, a final deck hit my inbox with my name scrubbed from the author line and a section called Modeling Approach, rewritten like a marketing blurb. The 19.2% stayed. I went home and tried to let it go. People rewrite. People posture. Maybe I was taking it personally. Transfer of ownership is clumsy. My girlfriend asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. She said, "You sound more than tired." I said, "It'll pass." I wanted it to. I wanted to be the kind of person who lets small injustices slide because they're not worth the noise. I packed my bag, ironed a shirt, and told myself I'd be helpful in the morning. Friday, an invite appeared. Pilot North Star Steering, I know I wasn't on it. Someone forwarded me the deck in case I needed context. The note said, "Please don't circulate." I opened it and stared at slide 14. Efficiency uplift due to revised throughput assumptions. Plus 111%. There was a new row I had never modeled. The footnote said, derived from updated ops data. The ops data tab, when I found it in the drive, had been uploaded at 6:12 a.m. by Ethan. There were numbers without sources that just happened to make the conclusion prettier. My stomach did the thing it does when a plane drops. Not fear. Gravity reminding you what it is. I called ops. A woman named Priya answered. "We've spoken twice. She's careful like me." I asked if they had pushed new throughput data for the pilot. She pulled up the folder, checked the timestamps. "No," she said. "Next refresh is end of month." I thanked her and sat for a full minute without moving. My screen went to sleep and woke up to my face in the reflection. At 8:23, my mouse hovered over a new message. I started writing and deleting like it was a confession instead of an email. Subject: quick alignment on pilot North Star sources. I wrote calmly because calm is harder to argue with. Team: flagging a few differences between the deck and the base model. Specifically, month 2 margin, 14.7% versus 19.2%, throughput assumption uplift, and a hard-coded reduction in CAC on the 2 final sheet. Attaching a side-by-side with cell references and screenshots. Could we confirm the source of truth before the steering? I kept adjectives out of it. No concerning, no misleading, just nouns and verbs and cells. Before sending, I did something small that turned out to be large. I copied the people who had touched the numbers. Sarah, Ethan, the 2 PMs. Then I typed chur to add Christian from finance, our controller, because he usually likes to know when the numbers he signs off on are moving. Outlook auto-completed with 2 names, Christian Flores, controller, and Christina O.F., CFO. I didn't notice which one stuck when I hit tab. I attached the file, read the body again, and deleted one sentence that sounded like a sigh. I sat there with the cursor blinking after my name. The office around me did its morning noises, elevators sighing, keyboards ticking, a laugh that always sounds rehearsed. Someone wheeled a whiteboard past. Someone shook a protein shaker. It's funny what you remember. The small things, like the smell of burnt coffee, and the way the sun here hits the building across the street at a certain angle that makes it look cleaner than it is. I thought about my chair, the one that had been pushed against the wall during that meeting, like it had offended someone. When I don't know what to do, I check the numbers one more time. I went through the side-by-side again, cell by cell, like counting a sleeping child's breaths. The math held. The tags held. The screenshots told the story, without me. I took a breath that felt like stepping onto a dock from a boat and not feeling it move under you anymore. I hit send, and for the first time in months, I didn't second-guess myself. Not yet. When I got to the office Monday morning, no one looked at me. That's not unusual in itself. It's the kind of place where people pretend to be busy the second you enter a room. But this time, it felt coordinated. My good morning hung in the air like a notification no one wanted to open. My email was quiet. Too quiet. Usually there's a stream of pings by 8:30. Updates, reminders, little, "Can you check this quickly?" Notes. Nothing. I checked my sent box. My message from Friday sat there. Read receipts from Sarah, Ethan, and the PMs. No replies. By 9:05, the team was gathering for the North Star steering call, the one I wasn't invited to. I could see them through the glass meeting room across the floor, all in a neat row, Sarah gesturing at a slide like she was teaching the alphabet. My slide, my formula, my data. I watched Ethan take notes he'd never understand, and something in my chest went cold. At 9:40, the door opened. Laughter spilled out, and I caught Sarah saying, "Well, that's handled." Ethan saw me looking and smiled like a man throwing a match over his shoulder. By lunch, my access to the pilot folder had changed. Permission denied. My model, the one I'd built from scratch, now required management approval to open. I sat there staring at the message like it was written in another language. Then came the email. From Sarah L. Subject: Role alignment moving forward. Hey name, to keep communications streamlined, Ethan will be the primary contact for North Star deliverables going forward. Appreciate your hard work on the foundational model. We'll keep you in the loop for any relevant updates. Foundational model, like a fossil, like something valuable as long as it stays buried. I walked to her desk. She didn't look up right away, the power move of the century. When she finally did, it was with a patient smile. Hey, everything okay? She asked, like I was the one out of line. You changed my access? Temporary, she said. Just for visibility control. It's nothing personal. That line, nothing personal, should be engraved above every corporate door. It's the translation for, we're doing something personal, but we don't want to talk about it. I wanted to push back, but the office has its own kind of gravity, the kind that pulls you towards silence. I went back to my desk, reopened my inbox, and saw a new notification. Christian Flores, controller, had replied, or so I thought. But it wasn't the controller. It was Christina Flores, CFO. Her message was short. Got it. Thanks for flagging. I'll take a look. Just that. No signature block. No smiley. No hi name. But the read time was 8:07 a.m. She'd seen it first thing in the morning. For the rest of the day, I felt like someone had moved a camera into the ceiling. Unseen, unannounced, quietly recording. I worked. I answered nothing. I went home early, the same way people do when they know they're about to be hit by something but can't see from which direction. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every sentence of that email. Did I sound defensive? Did I imply blame? Did I overstep? No. The tone was clean, measured, factual, but that didn't mean safe. Tuesday came with more silence, the heavy kind. My card wouldn't open the analytics lab door. My name vanished from the Friday report schedule. At 11:20, I saw HR walk through the floor, clipboards in hand. They passed my desk, stopped by Sarah's, spoke quietly. At 11:47, a meeting invite popped up on my screen. Meeting, Pilot North Star, Data Alignment Follow-Up Time, 1 p.m. Organizer, Christina O. Flores. Required attendees, Sarah L., Ethan D., my name, HR, Donna W. I froze. The subject line looked harmless. But in this building, HR doesn't show up to meetings about data alignment. The room we met in was smaller than it looked online. Glass walls, a round table, and air so still you could hear the clock tick. The CFO was already there, phone face down, her posture quiet but deliberate. HR sat beside her, tablet ready. Sarah and Ethan came in whispering. Sarah smiled like this was all routine. Ethan wouldn't look up. Christina didn't waste time. She turned her tablet toward us. I received this email Friday, she said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. From name. I'd like us to go over it together. She scrolled slowly through my message, reading each line aloud. Every word I'd typed sounded louder in that room. When she reached the attachments, she opened my side-by-side comparison, my screenshots, my red marks. Then she pulled up another file. The numbers presented in Friday's steering meeting. I had finance audit them against the data warehouse. She paused. There are material discrepancies. Sarah blinked. I'm sure it's just a... Christina held up a hand. We're not assuming anything yet. She turned to me. Thank you for documenting the sources clearly. It made the review straightforward. My pulse was doing drum practice in my neck. I nodded once. Then Christina looked at Ethan. Could you walk me through how you arrived at the 19.2% margin? Ethan started talking. Too fast, too soft, too circular. Words like revision, streamline, presentation clarity. HR typed quietly, line by line. I sat there, hands folded, saying nothing. Every instinct screamed to fill the silence, but I'd learned something about silence lately. How much power it holds when you stop trying to fix other people's noise. Christina clicked once. The projector screen changed. 2 columns, source data and presentation data. Line after line glowed red. And here, she said finally, is where the formula was hard-coded. No one breathed. Sarah glanced at Ethan. Ethan stared at the table. Christina leaned back. We'll pause the pilot initiative pending internal review. HR will coordinate next steps. Then she looked directly at me. You did the right thing raising it. I didn't move, didn't even nod, because in that kind of room, movement feels like a confession. They all sat there waiting for someone to say something. No one did. The only sound was the quiet hum of the air conditioner and the clicking of HR's pen, and then silence, the kind that means something's gone wrong. When I came in the next morning, the floor felt different, not quieter, heavier, like someone had turned the oxygen down just a little. People spoke in short bursts, like they were rationing words. Sarah's door stayed closed. Ethan's desk was empty except for a half-empty coffee cup and a monitor that still showed yesterday's spreadsheet. At 9:12, an email went out from HR to all staff. It didn't mention names. It never does. Just the phrase, temporary reassignment pending internal audit. Everyone knew what it meant. I kept my head down and worked. It's strange, but after months of being invisible, staying invisible was finally an advantage. No one wanted to talk to me. Not out of spite this time, but out of caution, like I was radioactive. By noon, Christina, the CFO, sent me a meeting request. Subject: North Star Data Review. Time: 2 p.m. Location: Boardroom 6. No context, just that. I spent the next 2 hours replaying every second of yesterday's meeting, every word I'd said, which was almost none, every glance, every nod. I tried to decide if she'd sounded angry, impressed, disappointed. It's impossible to tell with people who are used to controlling entire companies with their tone. At 1:55, I walked into 6A. Christina was already there, standing by the window with a printed report in her hand. She gestured for me to sit. "Thanks for coming," she said. Her voice was softer than yesterday. "I wanted to let you know personally what's happening." I braced for the worst. Restructuring, layoffs. This isn't about blame, but... Instead, she set the report on the table and said, "Your documentation made the audit simple. It's clear the integrity issue wasn't yours. The finance team confirmed multiple instances of data manipulation, all traced to files managed by Sarah and Ethan." I exhaled for the first time in 24 hours. She went on, "HR is handling the formal side, but I wanted to tell you something off record. You did exactly what we hope people do. You kept your notes, you stayed factual, and you didn't escalate emotionally. That matters." I nodded, unsure what to do with the compliment. Christina looked down at the report again. "You've been with us, 3 years?" 3.5, I said. "You ever think about leadership?" I almost laughed. "Not lately." She smiled, barely. "Keep that option open." Then after a pause, "And don't worry about North Star. We'll finish cleaning it up." When I left the room, people tried not to stare. The ones who used to ignore me suddenly found their shoes fascinating. The few who met my eyes did it with that awkward half-smile that says, "I always knew you were solid," which of course they didn't. I spent the afternoon catching up on other projects, trying to feel normal again, but something had shifted. My inbox pinged non-stop. Budget clarifications, data requests, meeting invites. My name was back in threads I hadn't seen in weeks. Even the interns started copying me again. At 4:30, I took the long way to the elevator. Sarah's office door was still closed, lights off. HR had already boxed some of her stuff. Plants, framed quotes, a mug that said, "Boss Energy." Ethan passed me in the hallway later, escorted by security. He didn't look angry, just hollow, like someone who realized too late that confidence doesn't count as competence. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. When I got home, I made dinner, poured a drink, and sat in silence that finally felt earned. My phone buzzed once, a message from Christina. FYI, HR has wrapped initial review. Thanks again for your professionalism. You'll be briefed on next steps tomorrow. I stared at it for a long moment before replying with a single line. Appreciate the update. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, the company held an all-hands meeting. Officially, it was about ethics and transparency in reporting, but everyone knew it was about North Star. Christina stood at the front of the room, HR beside her. She talked about accountability, how trust is built in small decisions, not slogans. Then she said something that made the entire room shift. If you ever think integrity is someone else's responsibility, ask yourself whose name will be on the email when the numbers don't match. Her eyes flicked to me for just a second, not long enough for anyone to notice, but long enough for me to feel it. After the meeting, a few people came over, the same ones who'd ghosted me for months. They used words like rough time, miscommunication, good on you. I nodded politely because you can't fix character with small talk. When the crowd thinned, I sat back at my desk and opened my inbox. There was a new thread from finance. North Star continuation, interim lead. My name was in bold next to it. I didn't react, didn't smile, just read it twice, closed the email, and stared at the city through the window. That's when it hit me. How fast a narrative flips once truth surfaces. 1 week you're the quiet guy everyone overlooks. The next, you're the reference point in someone's ethics slide deck. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just let the silence do what it does best. Say everything for you. But what happened after that meeting, no one was ready for. The following week felt like waking up in the same house, but realizing someone had quietly remodeled it overnight. People spoke differently around me now. Slower, more careful, like every word was being weighed on invisible scales. The same co-workers who'd once walked past me in the hall without so much as a nod now smiled too much, asked if I had a minute, wanted to pick my brain. Respect that arrives late always sounds rehearsed. Sarah didn't come back. HR made it official with an email that said nothing and explained everything. Ethan's LinkedIn updated 2 days later, exploring new opportunities. I didn't click like. Christina called me into her office on Thursday. No assistance, no formalities. She gestured to the chair opposite her desk. Sit, she said. You're quiet. That's good. People mistake quiet for weak until it costs them. She slid a folder across the desk. I'm offering you the lead analyst position on North Star permanently. You've already been doing the work. Might as well make it official. I blinked. Are you sure? She tilted her head. You kept your integrity when it wasn't convenient. That's rarer than talent. So yes, I'm sure. I signed the offer letter that afternoon. The HR rep smiled too wide, shook my hand too long. The irony wasn't lost on me, the same department that once looked right past me now, scheduling a photo shoot for the internal newsletter. That weekend, I took my laptop home, opened the original model, the clean one, the one that started all this, and just stared at the rows for a while. The numbers hadn't changed, but I had. Every cell still calculated the same, but now it felt like proof of something bigger. That truth doesn't need polish, only patience. The next month passed quietly. Meetings came and went. Reports shipped clean. No more late-night fixes, no more missing chairs. The office rhythm found its balance again, minus the background tension that used to hum like bad wiring. One afternoon, I caught a reflection of myself in the glass wall during a call. Same shirt, same desk, same posture. But the difference was in the eyes. The calm that comes when you finally stop trying to be seen by the wrong people. A few weeks later, Christina stopped by my desk. No entourage, just a cup of coffee in one hand and a faint smirk. Good work on the Q2 forecast, she said. Numbers held up under audit. Appreciate that, I replied. She nodded once. Keep doing what you're doing. And remember, Silence only works if it's intentional. Then she walked away. That line stayed with me. Silence as intention, not fear. At 5:58 that same evening, an email popped up from Christina O. Flores. Subject: Future Leadership Development Program nomination. Would you consider taking the lead analyst position permanently? I read it twice, even though the question wasn't really a question anymore. I shut my laptop, leaned back, and listened to the office. The steady hum of air vents, the quiet shuffle of people packing up, the faint echo of keyboards. The same room that once swallowed my voice now seemed to wait for it. I thought about that morning months ago, standing outside the conference room with my missing chair and my uninvited name. I remembered the sting of being unseen, the cold weight of exclusion. Now that memory felt like a different life. The truth is, I never wanted revenge. I just wanted the noise to stop. And it did. The room that once went silent now waited for me to speak.